Coming from the Masters of Evil DLC, we have Whirlwind. This dude has one ability, that being flight. This guy has the same ability makeup as Anthony, except Whirlwind isn't nightmare fuel. I don't know enough about this guy to know what other abilities would be applicable to him, so I'm going to assume flight is the only ability that would make sense. But now that I say it, he has those razor things on his hands. Maybe he could have had the dig ability? I don't know. I don't think we've covered the dig ability on this series yet, but we'll get to it. But like I mentioned, Whirlwind here is from the Masters of Evil DLC, which is probably my least favorite DLC in the game. The level itself was pretty lackluster, consisting of only one area where you activate those 4 machines. Also, a big Captain America villain was gatekept from the base game for this DLC, which is slimy of them to do. One of the plots that was shoved into Iron Man 3 was the EXTREMIS plotline from the comics. I'm not a big comic reader, but I do remember owning a comic or two from the EXTREMIS run from the mid-2000s. The realistic artwork is burned into my mind, in both good and bad ways. Maybe reading that as a child who had just recently learned to read wasn't a good idea. Maybe I should blame my parents. Sure, it's their fault. Let's go with that. But aside from that, the EXTREMIS was a big part of Iron Man 3 with Aldrich Killian. That's what his name is. Was a big part of Iron Man 3 with Aldrich Killian as the cause of it. In the comics, Killian was this little psychotic nerd, but in Iron Man 3, he was a psychotic Guy Pearce. They try to play him off as a nerd in the beginning of the movie in a flashback, but you can't fool me. This is the standard EXTREMIS soldier with no special name or anything. The EXTREMIS soldier has 2 abilities, and they're both passive. By passive, I mean you don't have to press buttons for it. I think I'm probably going to be using that term in the future, so keep the passive term in your mind. It means you don't need to press any buttons in order to do it. It's just something they can do. EXTREMIS soldiers' 2 abilities are regenerative health and fire immunity. Regenerative health, which we've seen before, is kind of more important than you might think, since invincibility is not an extra in this game, like it is for most LEGO games. So regenerative health is important because you can get health back without having to seek out enemy hearts to replenish your health. Fire immunity is exactly what you'd expect. You can walk on fire without getting hurt. Bada bing. This guy, he's one of those goof characters. His name is Butterball, and he does not die. I guess that's what Hybrid said about him, whatever the hell he is. But he's right though. Butterball is invincible in this game. In the last segment, I talked about the importance of regenerative health, and that it gives you health over time if you lose it. Butterball here has regenerative health, but he also has a step up from regenerative health, which is invincibility itself. This guy cannot be damaged, period. So I don't know why he's listed as having both invincibility and regenerative health. The latter would just be redundant if he can't get hurt in the first place. But that's all he does. No abilities otherwise. I find this guy charming though because his movement animations are funny, and so are his idle animations. Some characters, when you leave them idle for a little while, they do, little animations. Butterball here is an example of one of these characters, and he bangs a pan on his head. Like I said, he's such a kidder, that guy. Ares? I thought the Greek gods was DC's thing. Well, DC doesn't own Greek mythology, but they're a big part of Wonder Woman's mythos, an essential part even. The Greek gods to Wonder Woman are like the Norse gods to Thor. Greek mythology can be included in all comics companies, and that includes Marvel. In fact, Hercules is a pretty big hero in Marvel Comics, or he was at one point. He's more a thing in the cosmic side of things nowadays, but the most curious part of it all is that Hercules doesn't even show up in this game. Honestly, I don't care enough about Hercules to care that he's not in this game, but it just confuses me that Ares has made it instead of him, especially since I know Hercules plays a role in Marvel Comics more than Ares does at least. But I don't know. Ares has 2 abilities, regenerative health and super strength. The strength ability is new to the series, but I've spoken about it before, and it's not new to the channel. I'm sure you're familiar with those green handles. Well, Ares can pull them out. Ah yes, the most forgettable villain in the MCU, so far, at least, who even played this guy? Usually I'm aware of who plays who in these kinds of movies, especially the main antagonist, but Malekith, I don't know, and I don't care to look him up. Let me look up. Yep, I just don't know this guy, period. But Malekith here is pretty lame in this game, just like he is in the movie. He has 2 abilities, one of them being regenerative health, because of course. The second ability is a staple of LEGO games at this point, the laser ability. There are 2 types of things the laser ability can do, and though most characters with the laser ability can do both, including Malekith, that's not always the case. The 2 things are 1, carving shapes out of gold walls, and 2, just straight up blowing them up. Like I said, Malekith can do both, but I'll try to mention it when we get to a character that can't. This guy is the biological father of Loki, the trickster god we all know and love, perhaps some love a little too much. Though Laufey didn't play a very big role in the MCU after the first Thor movie, I think it's kind of cool he ended up making an appearance in this game. Laufey's first ability is, of course, regenerative health, but the second ability he has is new to the series and one that is pretty rare for a character to have in this game. That ability is the ice ability. He can shoot streams of ice that can freeze enemies. Very rarely in this game, you can find puddles of water with studs in it, denoting that you can use the ice ability to freeze the water into something. Again, it's really rare, especially considering that this game is pretty huge and only a select few characters actually have the ability. But it's worth mentioning. Speaking of Loki's origins, why wasn't he in Frost Giant mode in the Loki show? At the TVA, it is established that all magic is just cancelled, and Loki uses magic to mask his Frost Giant appearance. So by all accounts, Loki should have been a Frost Giant in the Loki show, but if that was the case, I guess Tumblr girls wouldn't be able to fangirl over him. Is Tumblr a thing anymore? I don't know. Maybe I'm dating myself. Ah yes, the love interest of Tony Stark himself, Pepper Potts. Her appearance in this game should come as no surprise, and her 2 abilities are pretty helpful as well. As a breath of fresh air, I can gladly say that she does not have regenerative health, as the last 5 characters did. No, she instead has technology and agility. While these 2 abilities are both ones we have seen, hell, agility-only characters took up almost an entire part of this series by themselves. But technology and agility is a combination we haven't seen yet, and, I think it's a pretty good one. I suppose technology makes sense for Pepper, since she knows how to use all of Tony Stark's uber-smart devices, but agility, I don't think I'd agree. TT games usually tend to give women the agility ability just for the sake of it, but it doesn't always work, Pepper Potts here being an example. Well, we go from one Avenger-level love interest to another, this time being Jane Foster, Thor's ex and future goddess of thunder. Now, that whole spiel I went about female characters being given the agility ability for no reason, I'm debunking it right now, because Jane Foster has 2 abilities and neither of them are agility. No, she has scan and technology. The 2 abilities she has makes total sense, and throwing agility in there would have bumped up her rank, sure, but it wouldn't make sense with her character, and I would have definitely complained about it. Anyway, scan and technology both are abilities we've covered, and I have nothing else to say about it right now. But one thing I want to say about Jane Foster is her idle animation in this game, because it's one of the cooler ones. If you stay idle for a little while, an animation occurs where Thor's hammer falls to the ground and Thor himself shows up. I'm pretty sure this is the only idle animation of all of the characters in which another character shows up, so that's pretty cool. Next up, we have a pretty deep cut into Marvel lore with Moon Boy. Moon Boy is a part of a duo, and his partner is so much cooler and also in this game as a playable character. I'll be completely transparent and say I don't know a lick about this guy. He was created in the late 70s by Jack Kirby and rarely revisited thereafter. I guess this was the time when Marvel was trying a lot of stuff out, and Moon Boy here was just a byproduct of that, a weird byproduct. In case you're wondering about what he's all about, I won't get too much into it, but he's from a universe where Dinosaur World is a thing, and honestly, from what I'm reading from the wiki, the dude just has a wacky-ass life. Both with him dying, being saved from death by means of time travel, acting as if his partner is dead in order to kill his enemy, just overall a rambunctious time. His two abilities in this game are Dig and Agility. Agility we know, but Dig is new to the series. It's pretty self-explanatory. There are patches of dirt around the game, and those with the Dig ability can dig it up. Up until writing the script for this video, I thought that this Cottonmouth was based on the same dude we saw in the Luke Cage show, which since that was his alias too. Turns out there's an entirely different villain in the Marvel Universe also called Cottonmouth, and that's this guy. He's a member of the Serpent Society, a criminal organization that Captain America has gone up against in the past. Overall, they didn't stick around for very long. A few years ago, Kevin Feige announced the third Captain America movie to be based on the Serpent Society as a joke before revealing the Civil War subtitle. But aside from that joke, I had never heard of the Serpent Society otherwise. So, yeah, I was kind of relieved that this Cottonmouth wasn't based on the Luke Cage villain because I would have many questions. Cottonmouth's two abilities are Dig and Agility, the exact same as Moonboy. I placed Cottonmouth above Moonboy because Moonboy's movement hinders him, runs on all fours. It's weird. Also, Cottonmouth, I placed him above Moonboy because I thought this was the Luke Cage villain and I was gonna have a laugh about it, but I guess that's kind of ruined now, isn't it?